Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I may say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men follow reader. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today we're going to have a little powwow with certain individuals concerned in Laredo about the COVID lockdown and issues that are coming on with our municipality and how it's being governed. We're able to have the show just to explain to people because we're media. We're underneath, we're in social distancing, so everything is kosher. Right here we have Judge Jesus Chuy Garza from 24/7. We have a local entrepreneur and chef, Chano Aldrete. We got Remy Salinas and another entrepreneur here in Laredo. And we're going to talk about the issues that are coming in. We're faced with a virus, a pandemic that has taken toll across the world. And there's three phases to come out of this. One, the virus itself. Second, how are we going to restart or recharge our cities and our lives back again? And lastly, which is, some people say it's a little bit more horrific than the virus, is the tyranny, the power grabbing by many of our officials that have already tasted that power. Are they going to want to let go? So it's three phases that we're in here. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good.
You doing good?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
What do you all say with all the ordinances that's been going on now? What do you say, Mr.?
Well, I think it's a difficult proposition for the council and for the commissioners court, our state government, to try and find a balance between keeping everyone safe and healthy and not affecting the economy to the extent that they can. I think the initial lockdown was kind of to get a handle on the virus and try to stop the rate of infection. So I think they kind of went big. It's kind of like go big or go home. And so they went big, and then they're just trying to find a handle on it so that they can come back and slowly start opening the economy. I don't think they realized how devastating the lockdown would be for small businesses especially. We're going to lose a lot of small businesses that don't have the wherewithal, even with the stimulus money and loans and all that kind of stuff. It's just not enough for them to recover. You know, a lot of those small businesses basically live paycheck to paycheck, and unfortunately, some of those aren't going to come back. But I think that the elected officials and the powers that be, they had a difficult, had some difficult decisions to make, and I think they've done the best with the information that they had, especially in the beginning. There wasn't a lot of data about the virus. Now we have more data, so I think that's why they're feeling like maybe we can start slowly trying to reopen the economy, get people back to work, and give some of these small businesses some relief.
What do you think, Chano?
The beginning days of our stay-at-home push from our city, I agree that the city needed to do something with a little bit of information that they had. And again, it's a little bit of a seesaw to see how much law you're going to put it into an ordinance, as they have, to enforce it. So now, in retrospect, and looking at what's going on, and some of my friends that have gotten cited, and maybe one of your friends has too, for coming home from the ranch at 10:01 or 10:15 when they had a lockdown on Del Mar Boulevard in the Loop, or they were putting gas without a mask, or washing their car, or XYZ, right? I think the police have the ability to maybe give a warning, instead of going full on, but everybody's just going full on and arresting people and giving them the biggest fine they can possibly issue out.
Judge?
Well, I tend to agree that I think the city fathers did what they had to do to protect the interests of the majority, in fact, everyone. You have a pandemic. This is not something that's very obviously normal. Something had to be done, and they took maybe a very extraordinary steps to do it, but they had to do something. And we've had close to 700,000 Americans who have had it. We've had more than 1,500 tests in Laredo, of which maybe 280, 300 people are tested positive. We need to handle this, because if we don't, our kids are going to be in the yards playing with other kids. Our co-workers are going to be working with each other, and it will get worse before it gets better. So I understand exactly how the city, and I think most of us feel that way. The problem is that, now that we've got to the process for about 3 weeks, we get to a point now that maybe we've got some numbers out, some negatives, some positives, some deaths, some people waiting, some recovered, and so we've begun the process of getting some sense of what is going on in Laredo. And I'm just anxious to see our city leaders now saying, okay, this is going to be the criteria now about how do we go back now to the new normal. And I have yet to see any leaders, county or city, to come up and say, this is the plan of action we're going to take. In other cities, you had the city mayor, the county judge say this is going to be, even the governor, the president, they chose a task force for business, health, and other types of businesses. And they're supposed to come up with ideas. And they take it back to city council, take it back to the commissioners, and then institute a brand new ordinance that reflects their wishes and stuff that's reasonable. I haven't seen that yet. And that concerns me a little bit, because as a public official, you have a responsibility to make sure that you uphold the law, which there are. However, you also must reflect the values of your community. And killing our economy locally and not giving the small businessman a way out of this is not looking out for the best interest. However, I totally agree with the lockdown at this point. But there has to be a transition.
I'm in full agreement. I'm in full agreement with everything you all are saying. I'm in full agreement with the procedures of safety that have been taking place. The only thing that I'm not in agreement with is once the small businesses started falling, once they started understanding, started to collapse, many of those small businesses ended up calling their city council, and the city council never called them back. So they were left alone, left to die, left to rot. And it was done, and it's done kind of in a how can I put it? In a way like, we don't care about you. One councilman even said, I'd rather for them not to die of, rather for them to die of debt than to die of coronavirus. That's some pretty harsh words. I don't want anybody to die. You understand? You know what I'm saying?
That's a very false options.
And that was Councilman George Algett, okay? But what I say is the following. When you're elected to be a leader, you have to lead. You have to stand up there and say, you know what, this is a plan that we have, this is what we're gonna take. When you issue out a bunch of ordinances and hide, that's a totally different story. Okay, I understand about the Constitution. I understand how they trampled on it. I understand what they did to the Bill of Rights. So when is enough enough? When are the people going to say, wait a minute, when are we going to stop? I understand you can give a citation, but $4,000 for a citation, and then you have one family had 3, that's $12,000. There's no way they can pay for that. So you have to have some leniency where is what? When is abuse of power? And the abuse of power under the color of law. It is always said bad elements would float when you have a situation like this, and it happens.
What was the $4,000 citation for?
It was a father that was washing, I believe, his car with his kids, ended up going past 10, and they got cited, all 3 of them. $4,000 each. Yesterday, apparently there was more. There was another mom that was driving, ended up driving back, got late.
I didn't even think a municipality could climb that high.
Well, I don't know, but people are saying that they're going against the 8th Amendment. I mean, there's a lot of amendments here that have been trampled on left and right. So we're like, when is enough enough?
I think it's somewhat natural in a situation like this to overreact. I mean, even in my own house, you know, I have 20-something in my house, I have teenagers in my house, and, you know, they think I'm, you know, Gestapo or something, you know, they think, you know, I mean, I'm like, you don't leave the house, you don't go outside unless you tell me where you're going or what you're doing. If you want to go outside, you go in the backyard, you don't walk down the street, you don't go anywhere. I mean, I'm 62, I have diabetes, and I'm a smoker, so I'm high risk, so I tell them, look, you don't go nowhere, you don't do nothing, period. And if you can't handle it, then go live in your car, go live in the monte or something else. But you're not going to be going back and forth, leaving and coming and all that kind of stuff. The only reason I leave or your mother leaves is to go shop for essential stuff that we need to survive all this time. I think at my house, I think we're at 31 or 32 days. You know, one of the things that I am concerned about is the fact that we're on lockdown. A lot of small businesses have been put in a pretty serious bind, but we still have a tremendous amount of pedestrian traffic on the bridge.
Not only that, the bridge is open.
Those are hours.
I'm sorry?
Those are hours. They put a partial ban to keep Mexicans from coming and crossing with a regular tourist card.
Right.
And so to come shopping, they allowed the only people who can cross from Mexico are the essential workers, the truck drivers, basically back and forth. The only people who can actually cross are American citizens into Mexico to get their medications or whatever they do in Mexico and come back. And so,
It seems to me like there's an awful lot of essential, quote, essential pedestrian crossings.
Let me tell you what happened yesterday. Yesterday you had a fire on Lincoln Juarez Bridge, and right there you had a car just light up in flames. There was a lot of videos going on.
There was swimming, hand sanitizer.
Well, one of the things that happened was that a lot of the agents that were there were not wearing masks. But again, the bridges are open. You have Governor Abbott enforcing our borders from Louisiana and Texas. So if an American, law-abiding American citizen from Louisiana crosses to the state line, 14-day quarantine. Now, not only that, if a Texan goes to Louisiana and comes back, it's another 14-day line. And here people are going over there and having tacos and coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's the power of the freight forwarding business. I mean, call it what it is. They are the lifeline of not only Laredo, but our country. And unfortunately,
So truckers, commercial traffic,
unfortunately,
commercial traffic, I understand. I don't know.
they were exempted, and so, they're exempted.
Go ahead.
But still,
Commercial traffic, I don't have a problem with.
we have commercial traffic from coast to coast coming here.
Right.
And from all over the Mexico.
There's no way around that.
You
That's
know,
just a risk, that's just a risk that we have to take.
Yes.
I mean, you
At
can't stop.
one point, you gotta be able to decide which ones are essentials. Unfortunately, the question then, Remy, becomes then, well, okay, so we all agree that first responders, law enforcement,
Of course.
the truckers, those guys, they're essential. But then we start picking which businesses can go forward, which ones can't go forward. And that's, to me, is where
So,
things start getting a little bit hazy.
well, everybody that was working before this was essential because they need to put a light.
It's essential to them, yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah, and that's the
And
difficult.
there's nobody to help.
That's the difficult, well, and that, the help part, one of the things that I've always talked about is, here in Laredo, we're fortunate that we have our bridge revenue, which is millions and millions of dollars every year. And the city chooses to put that profit from the bridge fund into the general fund and budget it and spend it every single year. It's always been.
Well, they do that the same with any profits from the water.
But water is different because every city has water. Every city makes money off of water. But for us, we have our bridge revenue that other cities in the state don't have, and yet they're able to survive and pay their firemen and their policemen and all the services and everything that they provide for their citizens without bridge revenue. And when you look at our property tax values compared to other cities, it's pretty much on par with other cities. We don't get a tax break, a property tax break from the city taxes because we have bridge revenue. They just take that extra money, throw it in the general fund, and find a way to spend it instead of taking that money and saying, you know what, this is icing on the cake. This is kind of like extra money that we make that other cities don't make, and putting it into a rainy day fund that they could be using today to help the small businesses here in Laredo. They could have that money if they wouldn't spend it every year. Every year, they spend every single dollar of revenue that they receive.
They overspend.
Well, they don't overspend because they only have X amount of revenue. But they spend right to the hill. They spend every dollar that they get, no matter what it is. Even if valuations go up and the revenue goes up, they find a way to spend it. They don't say, hey, we've got all this extra money from the bridge that no one else has. Why don't we put that away for a rainy day fund for the city? And they don't do that. They choose to spend every penny that they get.
My view again is that there's a time where I'm still waiting for that leader to come up. Right now we're looking for people who are competent and who are leaders to get us through this. I'm still hoping that they will create those committees of a few people to give input to the city council to start figuring out when we're going to be able to open up. There should be a committee for tourism, businessmen, health professionals, education, and get some good minds. I mean, we got some good minds in Laredo. They should be getting together, talking about it, coming with some ideas, and then start figuring out a way to roll out this economy.
And to answer that question right there about the committees, they do have committees, but it's always the same cronies of each one that's in the committee.
It is.
It's nobody else, it's only the same ones that are there, the same little activists that they go buy the videos from, it's the same little individuals that are always behind them. And that has to stop. You want to move forward? Let's move forward. Let me tell you something here that happened last week. Every time I interviewed a city official, or one that was running in the last 2 years, okay? They always would come up and say, you know what, Laredo needs to be like Austin, El Paso, Portland, or San Francisco. Laredo's Laredo. Why do you want it to be like that? No, we need downtown living, we need bike lanes, we need this. They wanted to change Laredo to a type of ideology that they had somewhere, or somebody brought somewhere. And they were moving, or they're moving Laredo that way. Basically, they're moving it that way. Well, last week, they had they sent me a video about a homeless man going to the bathroom downtown. So I said, you got it. Here's your Portland, here's your San Francisco, here's your Austin. Now Laredo's just like that. All of a sudden they started cleaning the streets. At least somehow along the way, somebody saw that it started changing the streets. The problem that we have here in Laredo, we're chasing a fad. Laredo has its own identity. Laredo's a beautiful town, has a beautiful culture. And there's not a person here right now that does not love the community, does not want them to see it prosper. What we hate to see and what we don't like, what's happening is that the businesses were forgotten. You take your safety, but don't you kick the person that makes the city go round, because that's exactly what they did. Now, we have to step up. There has to be a line that says, you know what, now we have to move forward. The president said it's coming, that it's going to be reopened. The governor said it's going to reopen. Now, how is Laredo going to act? No, don't open it.
Well, they didn't let us open our state park because we weren't ready for it, and that was a call from the city. State park was going to open, we didn't open in Laredo.
We're not ready. Honestly, I don't think we're ready to open yet.
No.
I mean, but I think there should be a plan.
I think we need
You
to
know,
build a herd immunity.
We need to create a
You're-
consensus.
You're healthy.
Yeah.
I'm healthy. Look, I have a heart condition. I take the high blood pressure medicine, but I can't be at home all the fucking time. And when I go out, I gotta worry about a fine, or I gotta wear my mask, or 6 feet of social distancing so they can track me properly on the phone or with a chip that they want to implant me with. You know, we gotta talk about the real issues, the recoding of Laredo. The agenda is Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, guys. And that's what we need to be talking about. That's what City Council is implementing. That's why we have these draconian measures that they're implementing, just like they're doing in Portland and in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. They have the same playbook for our city. It's a democratic playbook on how to screw the city and the citizens. And it's open for them to use. Why does Nancy Pelosi come to our city? Because she's the big playwright. You know, what has she done for our city? Not a damn thing. Well, what did Henry do for small businesses?
Well, I can tell you right now that Henry Cuellar did at least he announced a week and a half ago, $1.3 million went to the city of Laredo for the coronavirus business community, for what's going on. I did approach to city councilman and I told him, you got, San Antonio gave $16 million to small business and they're going to try to create some type of a hub or some type of way to give out some money to help out the small businesses. Edinburgh gave over $1 million setting up a fund to try to help small businesses also. And when I talked to the councilman, they said, no, we're going to use that money to plug our sales tax hole that we have. And to me, what I understand that point, the bottom line is that again, the small businessmen didn't get the help that they could have gotten. And I think that small business is the engine of our country. Small business is what runs, in many times, a good portion of our community. 60-70%, well, 60% of our retail business is Mexico, which is many of the small businesses need some of that. So again, and I don't care with all these, about the Agenda 21, it probably is a bad agenda. I don't know what it is. All I can say is that if you create jobs for Laredo, I'm for it. But I don't see this happening. And I don't see us getting us out of this quagmire that we have with this lockdown.
Well, the thing is, our city leaders and county have not created jobs for their whole tenure. You know, not just during this episode we're having.
Yeah.
They haven't brought in one factory to Laredo in the last 20 years. Name one factory. No. The only thing, and they're so proud of, is the cold storage at Mines Road that they just did a multi-million-dollar project, and there's a big development there right by the water plant where all their friends all got in line, right? That's how we it. Mi compadre's gonna make the money, screw the small people. That's the way they function here.
But I'm still hopeful that one of those councilmen or mayor or a commissioner or county judge will say, you know what? Enough is enough. Okay, guys, let's create this
But
committee. Let's bring
it's not really the responsibility of the elected officials. It's the responsibility of the voters.
Exactly
The
right.
voters are the ones that are responsible for putting those people in power. And the voters are the only ones that can change the future of Laredo. The voters are the ones that can demand change. As long as they keep electing the same people from the same families, from the same groups, you know, elected and pushed by the same cañoneros, there's nothing going to ever change for Laredo. If the voters, the everyday voters, South Laredo, North Laredo, Mines Road voters, all the voters, until they want change and demand change, it's never going to happen. We can sit here and criticize these leaders, but they're elected by the people. They're a result of the votes that are cast by the people. And then the people wonder why we don't have a rainy day fund. They wonder why the city and the county spend every single solitary dollar that they raise.
That's why we're here talking about it, so we can let our people know what's going on. That we need to change them out. That their vote does count, right?
They have $600,000 or so, each city councilman, for their little projects. They should put the money back into the budget and start working with that. You know, but again,
start working as a city together for
yes,
the vote,
better
for the people.
Here's something that I'm going to take off with what Remy said right here, is we are the ones that are responsible for that. We elected many of those that are up there, all of them. We elected every single one of them to go out there, and we might have thought that they spoke okay, but we found out they're a bad leader. In November, I guarantee you that this pandemic, this crisis, this scamdemic, whatever you want to call it, is going to have residual effects on the 4 city councilmen that are running. You're not going to see a couple of them not get reelected. Why? Because they left their people behind.
Hopefully all of them don't get reelected.
Well, George is no longer going to run, but you have a couple of them are non-essential. So those non-essential public officials should not be getting in there. And the other non-essentials that are on, that stay for the next couple of years, the city should get back together and, you know what, recall, because you left us behind. One thing is, okay, the lockdown, have the fear mongering, have everybody locked down and everybody's asustados in their homes, because that's what's happening.
yeah, but the pandemic is real. And there are positive tests coming out, and people are dying, and we need to obviously deal with that first.
But the scam is also real. And the scam is, the scam is there.
The lack of leadership, yes, I would
Okay,
agree.
that scam is real. The taking of the money,
People with the flu last year.
okay?
You know?
When you put,
I mean,
let me tell you how I can say that this is a scam. When we have American citizens being placed in lockdown because they're crossing the Louisiana-Texas border, and here every day they're going back and forth across to another country. Well, who knows if they're wearing a mask or not? And you come back here, this lockdown doesn't mean anything because we're always going to be getting the same thing
On
over.
the federal side, I mean, it was the federal side who called the shots there. It was the federals. If President Trump wanted to shut it down, he could have shut it down.
I think he
you
did.
know, we were more important still because they came
You know,
Canada all the
but
way.
we gotta find the irony in this whole thing. Even I, as a Democrat, find the irony. Where we all, I mean, say, we don't want the wall, and you know what, we can't keep the Mexicans on, this and that, and here we are,
Let me tell you one thing.
everyone's saying, you know, the Mexicans can't cross the bridge right now, and no one's protesting that. And I just find it,
Irony. You know, let me put it right here. I'm beyond.
It's funny how a virus kept everybody home from protesting.
You know
All
what?
over the world.
No, they're still protesting. But what happens is that right now I'm beyond Democrat and Republican.
yes.
Right now it's America.
It's America.
And I don't care who you are. If you did not show any leadership skills, any care for your community, out you go. And you know what?
This is when we know
I don't
what leaders
know.
are.
I don't know where the mayor's at right now.
This is the point of leadership. This is a pandemic. This is nothing more than a pandemic. This is something serious. Can't get any more serious than this.
Well, look.
We're so close to any more few laws, and it's martial law. Call it what it is.
Yeah, click.
So,
One more click, man.
so what I'm suggesting is that I'm still hopeful. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm still hopeful that there will be a group of public leaders who will say, okay, we're going to create these committees. We are going to create a metric system where, you know, some even testing positive or negative. Or, I mean, we're going to create a set of rules when we're going to put an end to this. I don't think that I can say I can say a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months. I don't know how long.
Listen, let me put it to you this way. I don't trust the government in doing that, both municipal, county, or state. The leaders are the ones that are here sitting down. They're going to go talk to some other small businesses and say, you know what, let's come together, let's see what we're going to do in a unit and start moving the community. The community itself has to do it, and they have to stand up. Because the leaders are out there, the city, and I'm saying the public officials are out there, and the public officials are doing diddly squat.
Well, they're hiding.
Okay?
Well, they're broke.
Yeah,
That's the big problem.
Yeah.
The big problem is they're broke.
they're broke.
They ain't got no money to do anything.
Yeah, both.
And they don't want to fess up to that and say, oh yeah, well, you know, we got a $700 million budget and we're broke.
Yep.
You know, how embarrassing is that? That you have a $700 million budget and you're broke. You can't even afford $3 or $4 or $5 million to help your small businesses survive. Because you're broke.
But then this is where the leadership comes out. If there's any,
Exactly.
where they say, you know what, all those contracts we did with everybody, we need to cut them out, 10%, 15% across the board.
Well, that's just the corruption that's in there. That's, 15, 20% corruption.
Yeah,
I believe in every city contract.
There's a crema.
There's 20, 30%,
Yeah.
Under the table.
So what I'm
corruption.
saying is that, I mean, the next budget is going to be, those are leadership.
I mean, look at, all you have to do is look at the bid list on big contracts for the city of Laredo. Look at the bid list. Look at the people that bid.
Same ones.
Nobody from San Antonio or Houston or Dallas. They don't come and bid on our big multi-million-dollar contracts. Why?
Because it's a waste of time for them.
But no, because they know they got to pay all that
Yeah.
under the table money.
Yeah.
So if they're doing a $3 million contract, they figure, well, shoot, that's gonna be $300,000 in under the table money that I gotta pay, and that comes right off the top of out of their profit. So they know, and even if they come down here and bid, 90% of the time, it's gonna, even if they have the low bid, the project's gonna go to a Laredo company.
Well,
What I can say is that leadership needs to step up, and we're going to find out as real leaders the next budget. We'll find out.
The next budget?
This budget coming up, December, they're going to have to start cutting.
Oh yeah, in October.
Well,
Budget comes out in October.
Yeah.
They should have cut last budget, but since the gap, the ceiling that Greg Abbott put last year, so they wouldn't raise taxes anymore, they had to screw us one more time before that ceiling hit, right?
Yeah.
So,
And
instead of cutting back, they just keep spending. Like you said, let's get those 600,000 that they're, everybody wants to do their little project and their
It's
little
over.
money out.
This is a new normal. It's all over. The old politician ways has got.
That should be the first thing they should do is take away all, that's what they should do right now. Is take all that discretionary money, put it together, and give it to the small businesses.
Yeah.
That's how much is that? That's $500,000, right?
No, maybe a little more.
No, it's more than that. It's $4 million.
Right. That's right.
$600,000 times 8, so that's, what is that? $4.8 million.
I mean, you hit a key point right there, but nobody's gonna do that, especially not them. Why? Because we have a lot of people that have too much of an ego. They have to start coming back down to
Well, I
reality.
made a bunch of promises too.
Okay? And those individuals have to understand that. You know, people need to be removed. You know, some of these individuals say, you know what, I stepped into this ring and the person in front of me beat the shit out of me. I have to throw in the white towel, I'm walking out. And some of these public officials have to say that to themselves, have a little honor in themselves and say, you know what, I'd rather just resign and have somebody else in.
It makes sense, yeah, but the point is that like every single government that we've always known, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, government keeps growing.
Mhm.
We need to cut it down, pare it down. But the bad leadership is gonna come back and say, well, we're gonna cut it down, but we're gonna have to raise the taxes here. The water bill, other franchise bills, taxes are gonna go up. They're gonna start trying to eat up some of that with more taxes, and that's really the wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah, but
We
when you cut
need
it down,
to create
why
more
don't you
business.
charge me more, you're cutting it down.
No, that's what I'm saying. I totally agree with you, but that's the old way the way the hand's gonna work. We cut it here, we're gonna raise the tax here. It's gonna happen. It's gonna start happening. That's the way they play the cards.
I think
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
On the taxes, start with the whole tax thing, and who's on the board there, let's take a look at there, right?
But
And-
right now,
And then some of those same people are in school boards, right? And then some of those same people are getting contracts from the school and the city.
no, right now,
Connect the dots. no?
right now in this crisis, and we're going back into the COVID issue, okay? Right now, you have a lot of people that are frustrated being locked down, okay? A lot of people that are being oppressed, and in their mind, you're having a lot of people with depression issues. You have people that are in drugs are no longer going to be able to get them. They're going to be out there fighting for them. And look at what just happened last week, okay? In the last week, there was 1, 2,
3.
4, 6, 7 people died, were murdered last week. Okay, here in Laredo, like that. This is gonna continue. The violent crimes are gonna get worse. What I'm worried about is all the kids that are at home that were being sexually abused by abusive parents. They have no protection. Kids will, if we see, that's what I'm afraid. That's what these police officers should be looking out for. You're going to start seeing aggravated assaults grow up a little bit more. You're going to start seeing the difference between burglaries are going to go up, as well as home invasions are going to go up. We had one last week that became a murder. It was a home invasion. Okay? So those are things that are going to pop up. And nobody's paying attention to that. Okay? Our police.
Again, but that's where again our leaders.
There's no leadership.
A task force, mental health group of people to come in together and say we need to do certain things. I know law enforcement is doing their best they can. I know the hospitals, the nurses, they're doing a wonderful job. They're saving lives. While I'm inside a place, they're actually doing something. I'm very grateful for that because there's a real pandemic out there. But by the same token, there is this residual damages, collateral damage, that's called loss of businesses, mental health issues, maybe child abuse. All those issues are going to be issues that are going to pop up in the next 30, 69 days. And so really City Council, without giving any money, but they need to do something.
They have
in terms of creating these committees and start talking.
We're talking about leaders. There's two men that have stepped up in the ballpark and are leading this game. One is a fire chief, and the other one is our newly elected city manager. He's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And these are the only two guys really, because everybody else is gone.
Yes, but the city manager is going to have he has a huge problem. How is he going to cover up that budget deficit? And that's when we're going to find out the real leaders who the real leaders in our community are. And then we're gonna need.
One, by not giving that 1.8 million to small business and keeping it to themselves, right? That's one way to keep that money. And whatever else federal money, since the lockdown, the lockdown started March 16th here, right? We're already at a month, right? We're already at a month, and there's no end in sight. Not even, the last interview George Allgeld had, his first sentence was, "We still have a long way to go in this quarantine, folks," quote unquote, right? So either he knows something that we don't know, of course he does, right? And a projection and timeline, right?
But that projection we don't know. They have yet to tell us, even though we think it's somewhere around Mother's Day or so. But that's based on what anecdotal evidence. But we don't have any specific the peak.
Right.
I don't think they even have
knowledge.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. But I think the governor and the president, this idea of a 14-day decline, I think that's a pretty good place to start. If you have a 14-day, now the problem with that though is, as you get down to say you get down to 3, 2, 1 cases per day. Say you're at day 12 and you have 3 cases. Then you're day at 13 and you have 1 case. And then you're at day 14 and you have 1 case. Then how does that work? Does the 14 days start again at the 2 days
Yes.
that you had even? Or do you have to have 14 straight days of declines? And as you get close, as you get lower and lower and lower, it's like golf. It's easy to go from being shooting 90 to shooting 80. But then it's a real bitch to go from shooting 80 to shooting 71 or 72. It gets hard, it gets harder and harder and harder. It's not linear. So as you get lower and lower and lower in cases, it's going to get more difficult to keep going lower and lower and lower.
Well, here's something that to interrupt you on that note. When you look at the phases, because they're opened up in phases, they say it's 14 days in any municipality you have for you to be able to open up. 14 days that you do not have any cold, influenza, or COVID cases. So they just lumped everything together. So that's never going to happen.
I don't think that's actually what it reads. I think it's 14 days of declining cases. So like I said, going from 20 cases a day to 15 cases a day is a lot easier than going from 5 cases a day to 1 case a day.
But it does say cold, influenza, and COVID cases lumped up as one.
Right.
And once you lump that together, we're never going to go anywhere, because how many colds do we have?
Correct, yeah. But the other issue, of course, is that if you don't give testing out there, then those numbers will be reached easily because there are no tests.
But
You've got to create a minimum number of tests to be able to get there.
Yeah, and I have on the link, and I'll place the link on, and I already have it on Gloves Off so they can look at it. But Dr. Briggs, the one that comes out always with Dr. Fauci,
With President Trump,
she said that she said, I'm not quoting her verbatim because I don't have it right there, but she said to the extent, there's no longer a flu, everything is COVID. When you do that, that means that they're trying to push this COVID further. And that's the scary part, because that's where you
Because then
lead
you
to
can't
much
ever get there.
You will never go low.
no.
Yeah.
And they want to keep it up there so we can all get vaccinated and a digital freaking tattoo.
And and I think a lot of this whole deal has to do with the day and age that we live in. With social media and 15 different 24-hour news programs. Wasn't that long ago that the AIDS virus killed 30 million people.
Sure.
No treatment, no vaccine, absolutely contagious. Somewhat similar to this with bodily fluids, so you could
Yep.
sneeze on somebody, you could cough on somebody, you know, if you kiss somebody, you know, it was very, they didn't lock down the whole country and close all the bars and say, okay, you know, and that was because it had to do with a segment of our population that people would say, oh, that's discriminatory, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But still, 30 million people died from AIDS in just a few years.
Well, Fauci called it the gay virus. Right?
Yeah, well,
That's where he stands on it. You know, he's not for our people.
Well, I would say that obviously the difference is that this sort of happened since, we still don't know if it's happened October, November, December, January, but it's so recent, all of this just happened, so I'm sure that's the reason why it's a pandemic.
Well, think about this. In October of last year, there was an event called Event 201 where they had a simulated roundtable of a pandemic that the World Health Organization, along with Hodgkin's and the Bill and Melinda Foundation, held in New York, right? And they simulated exactly what happened here, said that 65 million people would die, right? What a coincidence that 2 months later we have a pandemic that is somehow connecting all the dots to them. It just doesn't.
I wouldn't find a connection there. I couldn't. I just don't see it.
Well, Bill Gates owns the patent.
He could own any patent, but he's not the one that created it. He's not. This is not go there, guys. Okay.
No, so let's look at the whole thing here. Right now, what would you suggest for the small businesses to get together? I would say start our own type of association here, or a group.
probably need to start like a, you know,
Because the Chamber of Commerce hasn't
I
done
would
it.
ask the city council, which of the brave ones wants to come out and be the one that can eat the pack?
Where's the Chamber of Commerce in this?
yeah, they're hiding out.
You know,
Chamber of Commerce,
where's the Chamber of Commerce?
all they do is cut ribbons. They don't
You
do
know?
anything.
How come they're not speaking out for the small business?
They've never
You know,
spoken to a
restaurant, bars, I mean, all that is shot. I know some of my friends that just opened a brand new bar. They got a huge freaking $1 million debt. They're fucked.
Yeah. Well, think about the entertainment, like the one at the mall that just opened.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Roky's place over there.
Oh my God. He owes $10 million, dude. You know, those are huge bosses.
But those are the kind of places that, to be perfectly frank, those are the kind of places that absolutely can't be open right now. There's just no way.
How are you going to keep everything clean?
There's no way. People drinking, and how are you going to be drinking with a mask on? You know, and congregating that many people. I mean, that's like a incubator for this type of virus. But then, you know, and the ugly. This is really the ugly truth. And I'm probably going to catch hell for this.
Say it.
There's a certain number of deaths that have to be acceptable. There has to be a balance. You know, when you look back at some of the pandemics in the past, we're talking 50 million. Black Plague, 200 million people.
In some
The
cases,
Spanish flu, only 100 years ago. 50, 60 million people. AIDS, 30 million people. Where is the line? Where is it that we balance trashing the economy that'll take us 10 or 15 years to recover, destroying tens of thousands of small businesses?
Millions of them.
Well, I'll tell you that
forcing
the
people
line
into
would be-
poverty.
There has to be an
The line would be
acceptable.
whatever the CDC just recommended. The one
There's
that-
27 million people right now unemployed in the United States.
Yeah, so-
Never before. So this has to, listen, we've been going and people retreating. We're retreating, right? We're doing a backward offense, like they say, okay? You're backing up, you're protecting yourself. Like if you're in the ring, all of a sudden the round stops, and that's where we're at right now. We're in the rest round. Now it's the bell's gonna ring, and you have to go in there and fight or get your ass kicked. I'd rather go in there and fight and start building up and understanding that there's people that have needs and they're at high risk, and you leave them at home. But the people that are healthy, that can work, let's put them back in the workplace.
Well,
and start moving it forward.
I think there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that has to go with it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, if you're fool enough to go out and go to a movie theater once they open up, without a mask on, without wearing gloves, without protecting yourself, without trying your best not to cross-contaminate, if you're going to go out and take, you know, do high-risk behavior, it's just like with AIDS. Back when we had AIDS, if you're going to go out and have unprotected sex, that was your personal risk that you were taking and accepting that type of risk.
Absolutely.
You know,
and so that's the same thing that happens here. Let me tell you, a lot of the pandemics that occurred, a lot of these sicknesses that occurred, happened for one reason: lack of sewage. If you look at in the 18th century, people used to wear gloves. They didn't shake hands because of that. Okay? The shaking of the hand was something American did, you know, here being a man. Okay? But you did not shake hands in New York in the 18th century. You just kind of looked at each other. You waved from the side. Why? Because there was a lot of sickness in the street. Why? Because, you know, people forget the man walked on what side of the street. The woman walked on the inside of the wall. Why? Because you're probably going to be the one getting a urine bucket in your head. Because they would get the urine bucket, the pail underneath the bed, and just throw it out the window. And that's basically what happened. That's the type of society we lived in. That's why we walked there.
Yeah, but in 1918, when Spanish flu was around, that was a disease that was transmitted much the same way that this virus was transmitted.
Absolutely.
And the problem was then we didn't have the flu vaccines that we have now. The flu vaccines that we have now would most likely have prevented that type of flu. But this is a novel virus. It's something new. Once we have a vaccine, we will eliminate it from the face of the earth, just like we did polio. Or it might be just like the regular flu that we have now. Even with the vaccines and stuff that we have now, some people don't get vaccinated. You know, and they decide to accept that risk. They don't want to take the chance on the vaccination. They're scared of the vaccination. And that's a personal risk that people are going to be willing to take. And that's something that we should be. Everybody says, well, you have to worry about your neighbor. Well, we don't do that with a flu vaccine. We don't force everybody to get the flu vaccine. That's voluntary. So if you catch the flu, then you're a flu carrier and you can transmit it to other people. But we have to take personal responsibility to protect ourselves from being infected by one, either someone that's sick, or two, someone that is asymptomatic. We just have to take personal responsibility until there's some kind of a vaccine or there's some proven, very viable, successful treatments to where you're not going to get sick, catch pneumonia, and die.
Great points, because that's basically what needs to happen. It's called common sense. And people have to start thinking with common sense. Okay? I understand, you know, we're looking at some of the comments for the people getting the tickets. People are saying, well, why were you washing the car at 10 o'clock at night? Don't you know it's the curfew? There's certain limits, but what happens if you were out 8 o'clock at night and all of a sudden something happened and you're still out at 10? You were out there, something happened to your car. You're going to get a ticket for that. So you see all these negatives and positives that go on, so we have to have common sense. And that's something that we're forgetting here. The thing that I do not like in what they're doing now, not only here in Laredo, throughout the United States, is if somebody is not social distancing, they're encouraging people to rat on the other, to snitch on the other. That's called quizzling. You know, the Nazis had a saying, it's for the safety of the community. Okay? Safety of the community. You're the nice Christian German, and they'll go, over there in that house, they're hiding a family of Jews. The safety for the community. And they'll go pick them up and put them in a cart and take them away. That's exactly what's going on now. And that's something that we have to stop and say, you know what?
But at what point you got to understand also, you've got children, and the other families got working with personal responsibility. You know, at one point, there's gotta be certain rules they need to follow. If they don't follow the rules and you live right next to them, you have no choice, but you're gonna call the cops. You know, if there's continual violation, of course you gotta be reasonable about it.
But let me tell you what happens here.
Reasonable
But
about
you
it.
have to also take personal responsibility for your children.
Sure.
If I had young children, they're not gonna be in the front yard.
It's like the state
No
park
way in
opens.
hell.
The state park opens here. How do we not keep the
No,
children?
no. In our society-
How are we gonna keep children from playing in the playground?
Yeah.
Let me
No way.
let me tell you what's going to happen here. The same people that are pointing the finger at somebody for not wearing a mask because they went to go get their mail outside or went outside to turn on the hose or what have not. The same people that are doing that. That you had 11 people because your cousin came in to say hello. Those same people are the same ones that are smoking dope and pushing dope and saying, you know what, that's okay because he's selling it because, you know what, mijito, give me more money because your abuelita needs more money because the little son's selling dope. If the police of Laredo, and I'll say this to the police and the police chief and I'll direct it to you, Trevino, if you would put 0.01% of that energy that you're doing running around these ordinances and literally put them to bust up the drug pushers here in Laredo, Laredo would be drug free. And we know it. It would be drug free, 0.01%. But they don't do that. Now they're going after people in masks, harassing people in the mask, taking pictures of people, telling people to point people out, going in the backyards, looking in, counting people. What has society gotten to? The degeneration of our society. That's the horror.
Well, I don't totally, you know, that's one of the
Well, it's
problems
a
with
pandemic.
our culture.
So is the
Our
freedom.
culture is a carne asada culture.
Sure,
We get together and you know,
sure.
hey, what are you doing? I'm gonna have a beer. Shit, before you know it, there's 10 people at your house having a beer. You know, hey, what are you doing? I'm gonna have a little carne asada this afternoon. Before you know it, there's everybody you know, their brother, their kids, their wife, and everybody else is at your house. So our society and our culture is a little different in that way, in that regard. You know, in New York, you might have 3 or 4 friends that come over to a little cookout. Here, shit, you have a cookout, it's a gathering. It's a big gathering. You know,
Well,
people
some
in their
families are
front
like
yard,
that.
people in their front yards and in some of the neighborhoods. You know, people, the way the Mexican culture is, you know, we hang out in our front yard.
Yeah. You put the TV in the front.
Yeah.
You know, Americans that way. You know,
Yeah, it's
hang out in the
kinda
front yard.
This
Everybody
is-
does it. You
it's
go to
actually
Dallas
one of
in
our-
certain areas,
It's
you
a
know, you
block
go there.
party. It's a block party.
The king of the hill, you know, that everybody's out there in the
So I
front yard, you
understand
know.
they're trying to be a little bit more vigilant.
There's a difference between
I
being
think
vigilant.
we should just try the next couple of weeks or whatever long, just try a little bit harder, just stay home and stay out of trouble as best we can and just do it for ourselves.
I mean, I
And
go
if
to
your neighbor doesn't do it, well, that's his business, just.
I go to the
That's-
ranch.
that's
and
a way of
I
looking
go to the ranch and I work till dark. I come home and it's after 10, so I'm thinking, am I going to get pulled over? I'm coming from the ranch. I've been at the ranch all day working. You know, is that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And they can issue you a ticket.
I'm sorry.
They may issue you a fine also.
Yeah, but I'm coming from out of town. I'm not moving within town. You know, after the curfew, I'm coming from out of town. So.
Well, you know, that's
if that was the
what
case, that would mean at I-35, at the city limits, they'd be issuing tickets to everybody coming in after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but maybe not there, but as soon as you hit one of the veins going out, they might do that. So
Yeah.
the problem, it's a discretion of the
Yeah,
officer. And
exactly.
right now, the officers are out there not understanding that. I had a cousin of mine that got cited for walking his dog. He was walking a dog, okay? And he didn't have his mask, and the police officer, he had his bandana. So the police officer came in and put it back on there, and he goes, "Why'd you put the mask?" He goes, "Because now you're close to me." But he's also an agent. He's a federal agent. The police officer gave him a ticket this past weekend.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, why'd you give me a ticket?" He said, "The ordinances showed the ordinances." He goes, "No, it's
Yeah,
that's
that
what I
was
think.
screwed up.
You know, it's what I think." Okay, whatever. So another block down, he goes down there, removes it off again, pops it in, gives him another one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, being
You
out,
know, and then
being
so-
out walking by yourself, being forced
We
to
have
wear a
to,
mask.
we have to
That's-
understand what's gonna
kinda
happen,
ridiculous.
and that's it. You know, we have to come back down to reality and protect our citizens, not go against them and not belittle them by giving that one family, what, $12,000 and 3 tickets? I mean, where are they gonna pay $12,000?
You know, watching a guy jogging down the street by himself, nobody within earshot of him, he's just jogging down the street with a mask on. I'm thinking, is that like really giving him protection?
The
I
problem,
mean, is he really at risk running down the street by himself? Jogging, is he really at risk? I mean, somebody's got to drive by, cough, and the wind's got to be blowing in his direction. And it's just
what
kind of
Virus doesn't jump that way, guys.
when I first heard about the virus, and the virus came in, I said, we have a problem here. They were showing videos of people in China just dropping all over the place. I said, man, is that really that strong? How is it contagious? The person was shaking and all of a sudden dropped down, and people come in hazmat suits and pick them up and stick them somewhere else and took them off. And you were like, and I remember telling a couple of the city councilmen, one of them laughed and goes, oh, it's just Lysol y fabuloso, and you clean it up, you're going out. And I go, as soon as that hits here, you guys couldn't control the water issue a couple of months ago, mass hysteria. Let that hit here. It's going to be a cluster, and it's a cluster.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I said to myself, you start hearing it in Italy, or people dying left and right, and I go, well, what is it? And then people talking about that the virus, this is a virus, would land on the asphalt and will be in the asphalt for days on end in the heat, and all of a sudden lock up on the bottom of your shoe, somehow roll over on top of the shoe, and when you walked into your house, it'll shoot up and hit the oldest member of your family and kill him. I was like, what are we dealing with? People were all over the place with this.
Well, I mean,
But then hand sanitizer and cheap soap would kill it. So I'm like, okay, let's come down and realize exactly. There is a virus. It is serious. But what's more serious is why did we kill our economy, which was doing pretty
kill our
good.
economy over. Yeah.
We killed it. And people say it's going to come back in 6 months. It's not coming back. Half of these businesses around here are not coming back.
Right.
It's 2 out of 5 small businesses are going to be closed within 90
Here
days.
in Laredo, we're so restrictive here in Laredo that we made national news.
Sure.
I saw it on Fox.
Yeah.
That's how, out of the whole country, they picked Laredo because we're so restrictive. Okay, so we started off very, very restrictive. Now I think we can come back down to earth a little bit and say, you know what? If you're outside exercising by yourself, and you're not, within so many feet of each other, I guess they're worried about people crossing paths, running different, just keep your distance, be responsible. If you want to go play golf, the golf courses in San Antonio are open. Golf courses in Austin are open.
Yeah, everybody's closed.
They've been open. Golf is a solitary game for the most part. Don't share a cart together. Go out and play golf or walk or whatever. In San Antonio, you can play for free on all their city golf courses. No golf carts. You can get on and walk. Keep social distancing, and it's free. Okay. Now we did the.
What is that? I totally agree with you that there should have been I think we agree that
Measure.
that there should have been yes. They did what they had to do. You had 30 days, you said,
Now
we got some
reassess.
data. It's time to do a
Reset.
a reset, a transition.
And
There should have
how much
been
of that-
a list
how much of that-
of protocol metrics, a list of items we're gonna look at in 30 days.
That's what I've been
But
saying.
they don't have that
Because
they
they
don't
have bad data.
They don't know. It's because they don't want to accept responsibility if something goes wrong.
And that's the key. There has
They're
to be a
afraid
lead
that if it
there.
doesn't work, they don't want to accept the responsibility, which is what they're paid for.
That's what we need, leaders, competence.
we don't-
We need
Absolutely.
that. We need that.
Other than that,
And unfortunately, what's going to happen at the end, there's going to be 2 people holding the bag. It's going to be Dr. Gonzalez and Rob Reeves. Because at the end of the day, they're going to have to make a decision. Do we go forward or we don't go forward? With the budget, with the economy, and whether or not we're going to keep doing this type of ordinance.
The sad part here is that if the governor and the president say, you guys open up next Friday, Laredo's gonna fight tooth and nail for it not to open up. And when you start seeing that sadness, that's where it's gonna be. People are gonna start, the hate's gonna grow even more. That's where the element.
Well, I don't have a problem with the city fights it, because we need, I mean, what the government should do is look at every region, every city, and say, this is gonna be the rules. The governor says, this is gonna be the rules. This is the metrics. You meet this metric, like you said, with the CDC, then you're ready to open up. And of course, state government can open up everywhere because he's the government, he can open anywhere. But I think every community should set its standards, whatever standards that they have. And if the CDC said that we gotta go 14 days, and then we go to 14 days. At least the CDC gave us, I know, but at least the CDC gave us that, you know. Yeah, but the CDC gave us.
I worked on 30 days, I'm not sick.
No,
I know,
he's
but
talking
it is-
about the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers, like at least we got some direction, but we still haven't gotten direction from our local leaders.
Well,
Close the bridge.
That's the problem.
You have
Close
to
the
see
bridge,
that.
and I believe that we have something.
That
Close the
the
bridge.
numbers-
It's just like,
Everything got
you go out
changed.
to your ranch, you say, hey, I'm gonna deer fence my ranch. And you deer fence 3 sides of it, and you leave 2 miles of it open on the other side. What did you accomplish?
Nothing. And that's exactly what happened here.
That's right.
If you're gonna do the lockdown, lock the bridge. There's no traffic going and coming.
Well, you know what?
Your commercial, international transit,
That's
for
right.
commercial, it's one thing.
Right.
Commercial only.
But commercial only, but you're going over there to pick up a beer, to go have a taco, to tirar palo, and then you're gonna come back, it ain't gonna happen. You know, that's where people need to understand.
And I've seen the pictures of the line, the pedestrian line on the
Oh,
bridge.
yeah, pretty hard.
Jesus Christ,
They're
man.
all American citizens, they're no Mexicans.
We've got an hour. It's going to be a good show. By the time it goes, it's going to be good. I'm glad that you all came out here because we need to expound this. Some other people basically sit down and really don't express themselves. Folks, tune in with Judge Garza on 24/7. Contact Remy or contact Chano if you have any problems, or contact me. What we need to understand is, let's be vigilant with those kids out there. If there's any abuse in any form or fashion, let's be vigilant on that. You know, if somebody goes outside and pick up a newspaper without a mask, I'm sorry. You know, that's what's important is let's start protecting the little ones out there. And if you all get stopped by a police officer, do not argue. Comply. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Thank you. This and that. Do not argue.
Judge.
Do not argue. Never argue. Okay? Until next time, I want to thank you guys. Peace.
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.